Welcome to CNME Connects, a podcast sharing stories that inspire, educate and connect those working in healthcare. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Lynn. Lynn is a clinical nurse specialist for infant feeding and lactation working in the maternity services of Sligo University Hospital. With over 2 decades of frontline nursing experience, Lynn has been at the heart of neonatal and postnatal care, supporting countless families during some of the most important moments of their lives. She became an international board-certified lactation consultant, which is IBCLC, in 2015, and is involved in several national initiatives to improve breastfeeding support and infant nutrition. She's helped shape policy and practice on skin-to-skin care, sustainable infant feeding and staff education. Lynn's work has been recognised through national healthcare awards and nominations, as well as increasing breastfeeding rates in the maternity services. It's very timely that I'm speaking to Lynn because we are starting off and kicking off Breastfeeding Awareness Week. Lynn, you're so welcome to CNE Connects.
Oh, super. Thank you, Celine. Thanks for having me. I always love any opportunity to support and promote breastfeeding to a wider audience, so thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how did you become an infant feeding and lactation CNS?
Okay, like many people, it was never probably the plan, and I still kind of look back and go, how am I here doing this? But I came in with probably a very untraditional route to the area. And when I was doing my training initially, this wasn't even, position you could consider. It just didn't exist really. So and what happened was, and it's amazing how patients do impact us as much as sometimes we impact them. When I was doing my general training, my stint in the maternity hospital didn't really set my world on fire. I was happy to see it, but leave it, and I was much more kind of into the acute hospital settings and that real fast paced healthcare. So when I qualified, I initially went to intensive care. And it was while I was in intensive care after several years, I thought I'd always be there. We had a lady who was very sick and pregnant at the time, and she delivered in our unit unexpectedly, a very premature baby. After that, there was conversations around how maybe we could improve the care we could provide to these newborn premature babies if it ever happened again. So I went off to the Rotunda just to see and just to pick up a few things and ended up staying. And then it was while I was in the Rotunda, and I always say to people, Celine, I came from a background where breastfeeding wasn't very, visible. I didn't know anybody really at that stage probably who'd breastfed. It wasn't something that I was very exposed to. You gain exposure from things like Channel 4 documentaries, all those extreme things, or seeing it kind of as like a hippy dippy thing. That was the world I was coming from until I went into the neonatal intensive care. But at the same time, there was a big move towards breast milk being treatment more so than a food, and for these little premature babies. And a lot of research was showing kind of how beneficial it was to them and how their outcomes massively improved by receiving breast milk. And there was a big push. So I just happened to be there at the time this was happening. And you could see dramatic differences between the babies who received kind of continual breast milk in their journeys to kind of health. And it really did kind of shape my opinion on the power that kind of breast milk has to our babies and then kind of ongoing health in later life. So I came into neonates, as I said, on board, but then again, until I had my own children, I didn't really understand, I suppose, the complexities or the challenges or the supports you need to breastfeed successfully and enjoyably. And I started getting more and more interested then just through, being a mother myself. And then when I returned to work, wanting to help those mothers who did choose to breastfeed. So it was kind of like a natural involvement over several years. And then I took the opportunity to do my IBCLC training. And at the time, there was no post in our service. Many services in the country didn't have dedicated lactation support posts. So I was delighted when they eventually came to fruition in 2022. And thankfully got to get the post and have been, working in it since and really enjoying it. It's probably one of the most rewarding areas I've worked in my career. So really loving it.
Brilliant. It's so fabulous. And like you say, my children are grown up now. There's 19 and 17. But at the time, I just couldn't even contemplate the breastfeeding journey. Even though I was a nurse, I just, as you said, at the time, there just wasn't the support there that the mums need. And so what are the most common concerns? What are the challenges that you see that, or that mothers share with you in the early days of breastfeeding? How can you support them through those challenges?
Yeah. So definitely, as I said, a very different time from when we were having our babies, Celine, kind of back in the thousands, that there is a lot more information out there and families are coming in a lot more informed, and there's a lot more emphasis on them having that want to begin with to feed and kind of explore kind of breastfeeding. But really, there's still all those doubts. Having a baby can be very overwhelming. Mums especially feel that it's going to be a lot of pressure on themselves, and they've low confidence coming out. They've never seen it being done. They might have only heard the horror stories. As much as they want to do it, as I said, they're a wee bit unsure, and they
Mhm.
might have assumptions and been influenced by previous experiences or kind of stories they've heard elsewhere. So it's just really about getting them early in their pregnancy and getting
Mm.
them as well informed as they can, and giving them realistic information as well about what's involved. But definitely, the more preparation families do coming into the birth, the more success they'll have afterwards. And we're
Mhm.
seeing that we're having great success in our hospital month on month, where 70% of our babies are going home breastfeeding now in the
Wow.
last few years. So it really has. And I think it's like a ripple effect. I've always said since I came into the job, it's, to me, it's not really about the KPIs. It's about making mothers feel supported and kind of getting them to that stage where they're capable and confident. And if they have a good success story, and like, a success story to everybody is so different. It might
Mm.
be just giving colostrum. It might just be doing one
Yes.
feed. It might be
Mm.
just feeding while I'm in hospital. Whatever the individual, when I'm able to meet mums, that's what we discuss first of all. What's their individual goal? There's no
Mhm.
commitment. I make nobody sign up. And I think that's what people feel as well, that it's kind of, it has to be an all or nothing, that, they'll say to me things like, oh, but then I'll be going back to work. And I said, when are you going back to work? Oh, like next March. And you're going, okay, so like that's, a year away. What about today? What can we do today? But people, we just get into our heads and we think that if you start, you have to continue and there'll be no end to it. So it's just feeling, I said, take it one feed at a time. And as I said, when, ladies get their kind of goals achieved, they can sometimes surprise themselves and surpass their initial goals. But then they will
Mm.
tell kind of the mums coming behind them that
Yeah.
I had this great story. And that's what we are seeing now. We have first time mums coming in saying, you helped my friend and she's still feeding and she's really helped me. And I think I will. So it
Yeah.
definitely is. It's a culture change as much as
Yeah.
anything else. And we are seeing that now in Ireland, which is super.
Fabulous. And like you say, that first time being a mom, oh, it's the most overwhelming
Mhm.
experience. It's beautiful and it's wonderful, but as you say, everyone's journey is a little bit different. So having that support is amazing. And
Mhm.
like you say, like breastfeeding came when we're looking at documentaries or the TV or, oh, God help us, social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok. It can be portrayed as really natural and easy, but it can be different for some people. What do you wish more families and the wider community understood about breastfeeding?
A lot of the imagery and everything, it looks idyllic. It looks like it's so kind of easy, ozy, butterflies and rainbow, all the rest. And
Mhm.
as you said, the reality is you're after coming through a pregnancy, a delivery. Not everybody has an easy pregnancy or an easy delivery. And you're starting at kind of that very vulnerable place, trying to learn a new skill. I always say to mums, it's a team effort. It's you could be doing everything right, but if baby isn't in the humour or the form, both of you have to be on the same page. So it's
Mm.
just trying to keep mums aware of what to expect and kind of what is kind of commonplace, because sometimes mums have beliefs that it's going to be this when in actual fact it couldn't be further from what they think. So it's exploring what their expectations are and educating them on what the norms are in those first few days and how nature works and the biology of it all. And then once they get that, like, they really do understand it differently once we're able to provide them with that evidence-based information. And then they can
Mm.
be a lot more comfortable and not put as much pressure on themselves and take it that little bit easier on themselves, because nobody masters it day one. Nobody masters it week one. It definitely is the way human babies were meant to be fed. But like I would say as
Mm.
well, walking's natural. Walking looks easy when you can do it, but it takes them a good year to do it.
Yes.
Day one, it's not going to be perfect. And we will, those early weeks, babies are just developing so fast, going through
Mm.
so much, so dependent on you in that time, that no matter what, there's a lot of work that comes with babies in those early days. And being as prepared and as informed will really help you navigate and get the best success kind of for your own goals.
Yeah, sure. And from your perspective, what role does education and support play in helping mothers to establish and continue their breastfeeding journey?
So we do see that the mums who engage in the pregnancy, a lot of ladies, and I think this is changing as well. But when you're pregnant, all the excitement, all the rest, a lot of the focus is on the birth. And
Mm.
in truth, that it's such a special time. You have to prepare for that as well. But it's one day generally. So your feeding journey is a lot longer. So we do see the ladies who invest and engage in educating themselves, attending their breastfeeding classes, doing their antenatal colostrum harvesting in the last week of pregnancy, linking in with me. We try to kind of capture as many women as we can, especially those ladies who we feel may have kind of additional challenges depending on their past feeding experiences, their current pregnancy, their current medical condition, things that, and we try to get them as well prepared as we can before the birth. And in turn, you find that things go a lot better when they've done the work. The ladies who rock up to the hospital and say, "We'll just see how it goes." The average stay in the hospital when you're having a baby is around 3 days. So it's a lot to cram in. It's a lot to get skills like hand expressing and things mastered, get your first feeds, get your confidence up in that short time. So if you can, the more kind of we do antenatally will really set you up postnatally. And we've done research with the ATU in the last year about antenatal colostrum harvesting, and the mums who kind of decide to do that have an 89% success rate of breastfeeding and discharge from hospital. So, as I said,
Wow.
I see it every day, but the evidence is definitely backing us up there.
Mm.
The more preparation, and again, it's all so surreal when you're having a baby. Everything's a little bit abstract. So knowing as much as you can, and you mightn't remember it all, but still you have a better idea, and you have a better starting point, and you have better support. Having that little bit of colostrum and things can really help mums, especially those night twos and things where baby is very demanding and all night feeding, and that's when the doubts and things start to creep in for mums, and they turn kind of to other options if they don't have that awareness and that insight into what really is the normal kind of behaviours of a baby at that point.
And colostrum harvesting, you got me interested now, Lynn.
Mm.
What's that? This is before delivery.
This is before delivery, Celine. It's been practiced for decades now, but really in Ireland, we've only fully got on board maybe in the last 3 to 5 years. And it really is proving mums tend to get an awful lot out of it. So basically, when you're pregnant, the pregnancy hormones, in turn, from about 16 weeks onwards, start to produce colostrum, which is the
Mm.
first kind of milk that baby's going to receive. It's packed with antibodies. It's more than just nutrition. It really is that first kind of vaccine for baby. Some doctors now are calling it like the love biotic and things. So it
Oh,
really
okay.
does, help stand to the baby's health in those early days. But we do is we get mums, especially those higher risk mums who might be having just an elective section, a twin
Mm.
pregnancy, who are on certain
Mm.
medications, who had a difficult feeding in the past. But what we find is the majority of mums are doing it's just for themselves. They just want to feel prepared. It's a thing to tick off the list. And it's a great skill to have, to be able to hand express before baby comes. And it gives
Yes.
you that kind of, what I find is, mums automatically when baby comes are aware of deep latch because they've handled their breasts. They know where to compress, where baby needs to compress. It minimizes nipple damage. It gives them, as I said, those more enjoyable, more comfortable feeds in the early days. But yeah, they start from about 36 weeks pregnancy um, to hand express, and they collect only little droplets first of all,
Yeah.
and they collect them and they freeze them until the birth, and then we have them for those first feeds if mum or baby's unable to feed, or just
Mm.
as kind of an additional supplement to help get their breastfeeding off to a good start. It minimises jaundice, kind of the weight loss issues. Colostrum is a laxative in itself and an antidiuretic, so the wheeze and the poos that we talk about that we know breastfeeding good, it's going to maximize all those happening earlier and delay any problems coming in. So it works really well. And the biggest feedback I get from mums is, "I'm sorry, I just didn't do more of it," because
Yeah.
definitely kind of night two and things, or when things just don't go as planned, they're very grateful to have it, and they feel it's an insurance policy for them, and it can help
Mm.
maintain and protect their breastfeeding journey.
Fantastic. That's amazing. The science is amazing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. So how would you see your role when we're thinking about the shift to the left, like when we think about initiatives like sláinte care and public health priorities,
Mhm.
how would you see your role developing in the future?
Yeah, well, I think our role since we've only really it's only been since the end of 2022 that we now have a full kind of complement across all kind of maternity hospitals, the 19 maternity hospitals and the community settings that we have an infant feeding and lactation specialist in post. And there's massive changes that have come in since, and we really are trying to embed our practice and progress infant feeding
Mm,
across the country, which is brilliant. But with Sláinte Care, you know yourself, the emphasis is on that community based healthcare, keeping people out of the hospitals where possible. And
mm,
definitely, our roles, that's very much what we do. You're meeting ladies in the antenatal period all throughout their pregnancy. You're then continuing, you might be there from birth onwards in the hospital. But even in my role, I see mums and babies up till 6 weeks after they've given
mhm,
birth, and sometimes further if they're back as an inpatient or just they want to link in. It definitely hands across not just the pregnancy, those early childhoods as well, and then working along with GPs, just nurses, your public health nurses. There really is, there's a lot of crossover.
mm,
And predominantly, breastfed babies are healthier babies.
mm.
Breastfeeding mothers are healthier mothers. Readmissions to hospital, antibiotic use, treatment is much lower in this group than in others. So we are really protecting ongoing health and improving the outcomes for these families and lessening the burden for the health service in general. So definitely our role is pivotal in that vision that Launch Care has.
Wonderful. Really, really good. National Breastfeeding Week, it's all about celebrating and
Mhm.
promoting breastfeeding. What message would you like to share with the listeners, especially healthcare professionals, about how we can all better support breastfeeding mothers and families?
Yeah, so we celebrate every year National Breastfeeding Week from the 1st to the 7th of October. And this
Mhm.
year's theme is Hold Me Close, the power of skin to skin contact. This really captures the essence of what breastfeeding and early connection is all about. So skin to skin just is a beautiful moment after birth. It's also a proven way to regulate a baby's temperature, breathing, their stress levels, while supporting bonding and helping breastfeeding to get off to the best possible start. So it's been really encouraging to see in the last few years that our skin to skin rates have grown, immensely. Where we're now seeing 89% of our babies in Ireland getting skin to skin contact in that first hour after birth. And in turn, this is the starting point for everything when it
Mm.
comes to infant feeding. We are still seeing so many births now happening in that theatre setting. Our
Yes,
section rates are rising. So we
yes.
want to have that equity across where you
Mhm,
deliver. So mums who deliver in the labour ward have always been getting their skin to skin and
mm,
one-to-one maternity care, but it wasn't always the way, especially in the co-located hospitals. It's been a
Yes.
challenge. So we
mhm,
really are doing kind of massive work trying to get this as part of practice in our recovery theatre and recovery rooms.
mm,
And we want these mums and babies to get the same opportunities and chances as the
mm,
mums down in the labour ward.
mm.
Um, in our hospital alone, we had skin to skin rates of 72%, and now they're up kind of to the 90s and above certain months. There'll always be kind of a certain percentage for medical reasons that we can't, but we do kind of, as soon as possible, we reunite mum and baby and we do as much skin to skin as possible there. Really strong evidence. It's not just that hour after birth. The more
Mm.
skin to skin we do, the better. For both mum and baby. Ongoing skin to skin in that fourth trimester, an hour a day, is proven to massively lower postnatal anxiety and depression rates, they say by 60, 70%.
Wow.
Some studies. So it's something that we really want kind of to be practiced at home as well, not just in the hospital setting.
Amazing. And as you say, like the science and the research is so important in this field. I can remember when I bring back memories now, that wonderful moment, that first moment of the
Hmm.
squeaking out of the baby, just fabulous. And they smell, how do they smell so beautiful? Like
I know.
what is that? My God, I've never this, it's nice than any perfume I've
Yeah.
ever smelled. Um, but so the biology is kicking in. But I can remember as a young mother and being told like by older female relatives, don't overhandle the baby, keep the baby wrapped up, they're going to get cold,
Hmm. Hmm.
don't overhandle because you'll overstimulate them. So it's amazing how, thanks to you, Lynn, and your colleagues for all the work that you do and the science, and then again, you mentioned research that we do here in the Northwest, linking in with our colleagues in the ATU and beyond. It's just amazing to be able to give our new mums and dads all this really evidence-based information. Lynn, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really, as I do, learn something new every time. And again, we will drop some links in the show notes for everybody. There's more information about Breastfeeding Awareness Week in our show notes if anyone wants any more information. Lynn, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you very much, Celine.